Veteran Shoutout Show with your co-hosts Mike Tooman and Paul Burvitt. Every Saturday, noon until 2 on WRMN, 1410 AM, the Fox River Valley Media Network out of Elgin. Streaming on WRMN1410.com. Follow us on WRMN 1410's Facebook channel. You can watch us on Facebook Live. You could stream our videos, and you could also comment on the videos while they're in session. You can hit us up on the studio number, 847-931-1410, or you give us a text on our text number, 505-926-1410. How you doing, Paul?
Good. How are you?
And don't forget to, I got to adjust this a little bit. I think I'm 3, right? Yeah, don't forget to check out our own YouTube channel, Chief Guard of the Republic YouTube channel, or our webpage, cgr.silink, PSYLINK.net. So, Paul, we're going to talk a little bit about government shutdown, which is all the rage this week and probably all the rage next week. And I'm hoping for a record shutdown. And maybe many people won't agree with me because it's been plastered as a bad thing, but I have diversionary views on that. But I wanted to talk a little bit about our Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, and how he put the slap down on the flag officers. Everything above a colonel or a Navy captain, which is an 06 pay grade, because it's like the 6th officer rank. You have second lieutenant, ensign in the Navy. You have Lieutenant JG in the Navy, which is a first lieutenant in the Army or the Marines. Then you have a full lieutenant in the Navy, which is a captain in the Army. Then you have a lieutenant commander, which is a major in the Navy, or which is a lieutenant commander, which in the Navy, which is a major in the Army. Then you have a commander in the Navy, which is a lieutenant colonel in the Army. Then you have a captain in the Navy, in charge of a ship, the captain of the ship, the larger ships like a cruiser. And then you have the colonel in the Army. And everything above that is called a flag officer because they get these little red flags with the amount of stars that they have on them. And we have 1 star, 2 stars, 3 stars, 4 stars, and then the 5-star. And when you get to 5 stars, we had 3 5-star generals during World War II, the Army generals, and that was MacArthur, Marshall, and Eisenhower.
And Bradley, too.
I don't think he was 5-star in World War II.
Well, I know he was a 5-star. I think
he did make it up to 5-star. He did, yes.
Yeah, I think we've only had maybe 5 stars in modern times.
Yeah, well, a lot of them are posthumous. Grant was awarded it posthumously. Washington was awarded it posthumously. All right, so, but that's really up there. It's a high rank, and you're in control of a lot of stuff. And the next thing that goes, the 4 stars, those are major commands, and each part of the world is broken up into a major joint command. So you have EUCOM, European Command. You have NORTHCOM, which is the United States. You have SOUTHCOM, which is South America. You have AFRICOM. You have INDOPACOM. All right, and CENTCOM. CENTCOM gets all the news because that's the Middle East and everything. There was SYNCLANT. No, I think they combined them. Anyway, so those are 4-star generals that are above that are those major commanders, and those are really the movers and the shakers in there. And they could be either Air Force, Army, Navy, Marines, but not Coast Guard. The Coast Guard doesn't get that. In time of war, they would fall under the Navy. So the thing was that he calls all these generals together. And me, having been 38 years in and seeing these guys walking around and bebopping around, and for the most part, these guys were living in bubbles. They were living in a bubble, and they hadn't seen a trench, a foxhole, a tent being put up or driven in an Army truck in decades. Same thing with physical fitness standards. These guys get tailored suits, tailored uniforms to make them look good. And they look pretty good in their tailored uniform. But then, physically, if you see them in anything else, they're kind of pathetic. So, old Secretary of War, Pete, calls them all together. And we had views on that. You know, I thought it was going to be, at first I thought he was going to do a massive head chop. You know, he's just going to round up these guys and go, you're fired, you're fired, you're fired, you're fired, you're fired, you're fired, which is pretty embarrassing. And I don't think, on second thought, I wouldn't think he did that, because one of the things you should know about leadership in the military is you praise people in public, but you admonish them in private. So if you're going to do anything bad to them, it's going to be a private meeting, right? And, you know, there's not going to be all the public and no embarrassment on the guy. There shouldn't be. That's bad leadership. All right. So, and we thought maybe it was Nadim Hassan who has been approved for execution. And that would be a big thing to get all the generals together, because it could possibly have worldwide impact, you know, negative psychological impact. So you would want to prepare all your general officers for that. But basically, he just told them, you know, hey, get in the game, you know, get lethal, follow the things, you know, and he's going back to the old days. My ex-wife was in the military, my daughter was in the Coast Guard, and I worked with a lot of women in the Army, many of which I trust my life with. I absolutely would. I mean, some of them weren't big enough it would take like 4 or 5 of them to drag my big butt off the battlefield. But a lot of respect from women in the military. However, he comes down and he says, if you can't pass a male PT test, then why should you be in a male-dominated field, like infantry? All right? Like all these other combat field artillery. Those rounds, you know, if you're not with an automatic loader, with, you know, towed or self-propelled artillery with an automatic loader, those rounds are heavy. Those mortars are heavy. Everything's heavy. And if you're not capable of doing the job, then you're a detriment to everything. So he comes back. He's in my view, he's given truths, right? Truths. Like no more beard. We had a thing called a bump card. You know, some people have the type of hair that if you shave too close, you tend to get ingrown hairs, bumps like zits, like acne, but not exactly, but ingrown hairs. It's painful. It could get infected. You know, it's hard to deal with. There are ways around that, you could shave to prevent that. But they would go to a doctor, and a doctor would give them a bump card and say, this person's physically incapable of shaving because it would affect their health. But when you go to a battlefield, a dirty battlefield with possible chemical agents, smoke, all sorts of nasty stuff where you have to wear a protective mask, if you're not clean shaven, that mask is not going to make a seal, and you're going to die, or you're going to be injured or incapacitated because of what happened, because of not being able to seal the mask. So that's a basic truth out there. And grooming standards across the way, you know, if you let them just get away with any hairstyle or whatever, it's the shorter hair prevents what we used to call it mechanized dandruff, which is, you know, body lice, you know. And the shorter hair, you could spot it, right? You could clean easier. You just, you know, you don't need shampoo. All you need is a wet wash rag, right? These are physical fit. These are health benefits in the service. And again, if anyone has an issue with these things, like, oh my God, but what about the Sikhs? The Sikhs have to grow a beard for their religion. Well, Find a military that lets you do that. I'm sorry, you know. We had people fighting not to be drafted because of their religious beliefs. Some of them were told, okay, you don't have to go. And others were threatened to be thrown in prison. It was the times. But I think he was saying a lot of good stuff. If someone out there doesn't agree with me, call in. Give us a hit up on the YouTube Live or give us the text. The text would be the best. I'd like to get some text in here. I want to lead the radio station with the amount of text coming in. So it's 505-926-1410 for the text. So, Paul, what do you think?
Well, you know, I like I said, I watch a lot of different YouTube channels. You know, they run the gamut from firearms to trains to models to military. And there's a guy I watch out there, Ryan Macbeth. I think I forwarded some of your stuff there. And he's of the opinion that we're going to lose a lot of troops, primarily African Americans, because of the shaving issue. But he also brings up that some of our allies allow beards too. So if our allies allow beards, why are we so much against it? And I understand his point of view too, but I also understand what you're saying, and I've always thought that is a legitimate thing that they can order. I mean, they can order you to do anything you want, and like he said, you know, if you want a beard, join Special Forces. You know, they're going to make an exception for certain members of that, and you know, I guess if you really like your beard that much, you know, join the Special Forces unit, you know, and
yeah,
you know.
So being in psychological operations, right, and being military intelligence, and I had this disagreement, people may be upset with me, right, on this, is they made reduced grooming standards for people that dealt one-on-one with the Afghans or in Iraq, all right? And they said, well, they'll be more comfortable around you, you know, if you're wearing a beard, you know, you'd be one of them. I'm like, stop. Absolutely stop right now. I don't care how you dress. I don't care whether you're wearing a beard. I don't care whatever. If you're not the same religion and the same sect as them, not just the same religion, but the same sect as them, you're dead to them. You're nothing. They're going to take someone over their same religion and sect over you no matter what. If you're not of the same tribe as them, same thing, all right? It all goes down to it. And what you're going down to the lowest of the low because you're not the same sect, you're not the same religion, you're not the same sect. Nationalism is a little less, right? You're not the same tribe, you're not the same clan, you're not in the same family, right? You're not from the same town or anything like that. Finally, the only thing that makes you the same as them is, I got a beard. Oh, well look how that increased our ability to do operations and to collect intelligence, and how the people agreed with us now because we have a few guys out there growing beards. I'm like, nah. Now, if you want to fit in, right? Then we should only pick people for the Special Forces that look exactly like the people we're going to help. I mean, look like them. You can't tell the difference. Trust me, you go over to Afghanistan and you're 6'2" special operations guy, or 6'3" Navy SEAL or something, and you got blonde hair, blue eyes, and or maybe you're ginger with red hair and blue eyes and a red beard and everything. Although supposedly Muhammad had a red beard, right? And they look at you and, hey, I'd take a bet he's not one of us.
We took a class, actually, Marla and I took a class from Homeland Security a week ago Thursday, and it was like an interactive class one night. And like I said, there's a guy that I know that teaches that's a loyal follower of ours, and we got to get him on the show one day. He does threat assessment, but he also works for one of the local counties here. But I mentioned this when we talked about, looking for threats and stuff like that. It's an old story, but it rings true. And I'm going back to the late 70s and early 80s. There was a thing in the Chicago area called Gray Lord, okay, and it was involved with a certain group of people were bribing judges to get favorable rulings for their clients, and it was a thing, And coincidentally, at two time periods, a local state's attorney, and because they were short on judges here, they would rotate judges in and out. Okay. And the local state's attorney went to his boss, who was actually my boss at one time, and a friend of mine, and he said, I think there's bribery going on. What should I do? And he says, what do you want to do? And the guy says, I want to go to the FBI. And he eventually did, and the boss let him, and then he became an FBI agent. He's one of the few that never went to FBI school, okay? But the judge, he wore cowboy boots, and he wore a wire in the boots. And he would tell stories about how you would get frisked by everybody to make sure you weren't wearing a wire. But he told something very interesting. And now, mind you, Chicago, the Chicago area. And if they wanted to find out if you were okay, they would traditionally say, right after they met you, if you were a defense attorney, what parish are you from? Now, this was kind of interesting because there's some agnostics, there's some Jewish lawyers, and parish is a Catholic thing.
Yeah,
okay?
St. Bridget's.
Yeah, but the primary focus is, even if you were Jewish, you would say, oh, I'm from the St. Basil's area, or I'm from Holy Name area. They knew what area. It wasn't really about religion. It was about, were you from around here? And the first couple guys that couldn't answer that, there would be, everybody would go, I think that dude's wearing a wire. I think that dude's a Fed. And so it goes exactly to what you're talking about the beard. If you're not from around here, or you don't look like you're from around here, and you can't answer the crucial challenge question about what neighborhood are you from, and then you're going to be marked as an outsider and you got trouble. So I don't really think necessarily one way or another wearing a beard is going to help you. I'm just saying that's what he said. And I think that's a valid thing for him to say, and maybe, as we would say, building models, from 3 feet back on the shelf, the model looks great. Look up front, it's a piece of crap. So maybe from 15 yards away, you might pass as a local. Maybe that's, Hendrick's brother from Islamabad. I don't know. But, I think that the military should have the right. That was another thing they used to say years ago. If the UPS guy has a beard, he's not a UPS guy, okay? Because they wouldn't let their guys have beards. So that's a valid concern, And I think he's got the right to do it however he wants to do it. He's in charge now.
Yeah. So everything, things start out on a kind of a low level. All right, we're going to have this because someone said it was a good idea, and so now it's going to be incorporated into this, but they don't realize that it's only for specific, for specific use, for a specific time frame. It does take a while to grow a beard, or a decent beard, and they always measure it by fist lengths. How many fist lengths? How long has this guy been growing his beard? Right? Because that's another way you could tell. And normally they're not going to be growing a beard all the time. But what became cool, it became Hollywood cool, right? Oh, I'm an operator. I got a beard. Therefore, I'm an operator. Therefore, because I grew a beard, I'm more tactical than you. I'm like, I think the guy that can clean shave in the field to make sure his mask fits, right? And to make sure if you get shot in the face or wounded in the face, now they got to take the time to clean that up, to shave it, right? to clean it up, to stitch you up, to stitch your face up so it doesn't massively scar, to take his because they want to take his best care. Meanwhile, there's some other clean-shaven guy that's waiting in line while they're taking 6 or 7 hours on you. Right? So my operator friends, which I probably have one or two, they might disagree with me. Now, I go over there, right, and I had relaxed grooming standards, right, because of my field. I was an interrogator, right? So I had a 4-star letter saying it was okay because of my MOS. Anyone with that, they didn't care what you were doing. Anyone with the MOS. So one day, just one day, the first day I'm in charge, I make my uniform what they call sterile. So I take off my name tags, I take off my unit patches, I take off my rank, right? And I don't shave that morning. And they lost their minds. And it got back to the states that I had grown a full beard and I had gone completely rogue. One day. And I had a letter authorizing me to do that. But then the colonel that couldn't do anything else for us, you know, that we went 3 weeks without food resupplied, all this stuff that he couldn't do, suddenly he gets off his ass, he gets off his butt, and he calls the headquarters and he talks to someone that's supposed to have my back, and they go, oh, no, you could tell him to shave. Wonderful. But, you know, so even then, it's not carried equally throughout. But I think the grooming standards are there for a purpose. You want to look good. You want to look clean. A lot of these kids coming into the military are, I'm sorry to say, one, they're socially inept, right? Being socially inept, they give up. They haven't really taken care of their personal hygiene as much. You know, some of them, you know, just too lazy. As soon as their mother stopped bathing them when they were like 9, you know, they stopped bathing altogether. They get into the military and the strict discipline has to be there. Shave, bathe yourself every day, shave, clean shaven, check on it, make sure your uniforms are clean, wear a clean uniform. I mean, here, true story, this, right? When the BDUs, the battle dress uniform, came out, one of the key things about it, and they said, don't ever iron this uniform. You're not allowed to iron this uniform. It's got metallic fibers in it that will break up radar, and it's got a treatment in it that keeps you from being seen by heat sensors. Just kind of dumbs it down, right? It only took them about 2 months before they were screaming at you that they wanted that uniform that you're not supposed to press. You're not supposed to iron. They want it totally cleaned and pressed. So we'll come back for the second quarter of the Chief Guard of the Republic radio show, and I promise you we'll get into a shutdown. They just don't work out. All right. So you should be able to realize, okay, the whole world isn't going to change their point of view. The whole world is going to change their attitudes to suit you. You're supposed to be going over there to change your attitude so that they accept you, right? And they're not gonna. All right, so let's go to the. If anyone wants to disagree with me or anything else, you know, just call in. If you want to agree with me, fine, call in. But Paul, all right, so we're in day what of the shutdown?
Probably 4 or 5.
And has it affected?
The longest shutdown was, I believe, 35 days, and then the next longest before that was in the 20 days. And we were talking to a friend of ours yesterday, you know, and you know, he's a big supporter of the president and everything, but his friend has some female friends that are in the military, and you know, they're concerned they're not being paid and everything.
No, the military's all being paid. That's not true.
No, I know. But here's the deal on this. And I come at this at a little bit different perspective. As we said in the past before, to me, the government shut down on Sunday, pretty much. You don't get mail on Sunday. You can't call anybody on Sunday. there's certain groups, maybe the FBI's open or Secret Service, but generally everything you would see is closed on Sunday. So to me, it's like Sunday, except it might be a month of Sundays or a month and a half of Sundays. But here's what I know, okay? And being in government, okay, I went through like 3 shutdowns, okay? And nobody cared about the shutdown. So the first one was we didn't get paid. We didn't get paid. We worked, but we didn't get paid for a month and a half. Now that wasn't good. And I could see if you're living check to check, you got a mortgage payment. That's how it went. We didn't get paid. Now, when the shutdown was over, we allegedly got our money back, but a lot of people had some problems. Okay, so then there was a couple of years later, and it was all through politics, just like it is now. The couple of years later, we were shut down, I think, for 8 or 10 days. Okay, and what happened was they were real clever. Okay, they shut us down on a Friday and a Monday. But it was in a 2-week period. They did that 4 times. So whatever your check was, you only got like 50% of your check, a little bit more than 50%.
Because you're on salary.
Well, yeah, but you only got.
So they prorated it because Friday to Monday.
Right, you never got the money back. Okay, and you couldn't use your sick time or vacation time. You just SOL, you never got your money back. Okay. And then it happened again. Okay. But by then they were figured out, we can't be doing this, And so what they did is, and it wasn't them that did this. I was a member of the credit union one, and they said, we're going to institute a policy where we're going to give you a loan for what your take-home pay is for that period, and you're going to get your money, okay? But the proviso is you had to agree to sign over your check to them as soon as you were paid. And then that's what we did. So we because it was, 3 weeks, a month, whatever.
This is a state shutdown, not a federal shutdown, right?
Correct. But it was a state, but now here's the funny thing, okay? And, we were lawyers. We couldn't unionize. Prosecutors can't unionize. And although I think they let 3 of them do it or something like that. But so what happens is you were expected to be at work. Okay. So like there were times that, the government was shut down. Nobody was working. Now the bosses came in because they're a little bit different. But, you had to go to court, okay, and you had to be in court because that's a whole other different matter. You don't show up in court, you're a lawyer, you're licensed, you're going to lose your license or get suspended or something like that. So we were, you're like pro bono, but nobody cares, And, I would argue to you, thank God, had I been hurt, they wouldn't have covered it. They would have said, no workers' comp for you. We're not accepting liability. You weren't working for us at the time. So that goes both ways. But we were expected to work, to be in court, and to follow our cases. And I did, but for free. Okay. So, like a lot of people, you hear the belly achers in the federal unions, these are guys with families. Again, I know all that. I sympathize with you, but I was one of them guys. You guys didn't care. Okay. So, I used to have a partner and she would say, well, it's hard darts to you, my friend, and that's what it is. That's one of the risks you take, but you got another risk too, which I didn't have. When the government just prints more money. So in bad times, you're still going to get your check. The bad economy time. Now the state, not so much so. They'll lay you off. They'll fire you. things like that. So, it works both ways. I feel bad for the citizen who's got problems with Social Security and can't get through because there's nobody there, and he's got a bill to pay, or he's got a mortgage to make, or I
The
feel
Social
bad
Security checks are still being paid.
I understand, but if there's a hold on it for some reason,
Yes.
like an arbitrary hold, you're not getting through to anybody.
We're talking about the 1 in 200 million chance. All right.
Oh, no, more than that, but it's few and far between.
Yes.
So those are the people I feel sorry for, or the guy who's going to a wedding and who wants to go to the national park, which is closed.
Yeah.
Or the guy that wants to go to some federal museum and he can't get in and he misses out on it. I feel sorry for those people. Okay. But everybody else, I'm okay with it because, as I said, you can't get that stuff on Sunday anyway. It's just, it might be a month of Sundays, but, we'll get through it. Okay. And it's my understanding, now it could be propaganda, I don't know, but it's my understanding that they proposed a bill that was the same as the one they voted on 6 or 9 months ago. And there's one specific party that's not signing it. And,
yes.
and so
for everyone, it's not a simple majority on a funding bill. It's a 60-40. So they got to have 60 votes, or they got to have 59 votes with the vice president or whatever.
Right.
So yes, one party couldn't shut it down. Right.
So I would say, and I'm saying this a bit facetiously, but go to the people from that party. Send them a letter. Ask them to pay you from their political fund. Ask them to give you that money. And if enough people send them letters,
not their political fund, that would be illegal.
No, no, they can choose to donate to people. And if you have a legitimate cause, like you're being thrown out of your apartment or whatever, make them do it. Ask them for it at least. At the very least, ask them for it. And see how long, if they get tons of, it's just like...
Well, they'll ignore it. They won't reply.
Well, no, it's just like at the end of Miracle on 34th Street. If enough people write in and to the post office, which is a branch of government, and
a quasi branch of government.
Huh?
A quasi branch of government.
Well, at the time it was part of it. If enough people write into the government and they acknowledge there's Santa Claus, then there is Santa Claus, Virginia, and that 40% will pay your bill.
So that sounds like a class action suit to me, but yeah, no, honestly, because they don't. Now, first thing, back in 2019, they passed a law saying that if there's a government shutdown, the government employees will get paid, and will get paid back pay. And Congress has had this too. So now that it's shut down, technically Congress is getting paid. They don't care. They're getting their check. Their check means nothing. It's the money they make in the background. It's all the perks, right? It's like, oh, my federal check came in. Honey, put that in the petty cash account because, it's nothing compared to the $20 million I made in trades, And stuff
there's a fund actually that monitors what these people buy, but it's a little late because it's based on their ethics statements. But you can actually invest partially in the way they invest, and then we can.
If you're quick enough on it, because they got their traders, it's all. But okay, so when you get to that, so unfortunately, most of the federal employees, especially in Virginia, right, around the D.C. area, guess which party they vote for? I'm not going to say it, right? But they vote
to 40%, guys.
What?
The 40%.
They vote for that one. All right. So if you're a full-time government employee, all right, you don't have to worry about it. You're going to sit at home. You know, you're thinking, oh, I'm going to still have my job. The guys that are really getting creamed on this are the contractors. Because what they do is they contract with a company, and that company pays these so-called government workers. They're doing government jobs, right? They're sitting there. They're doing government jobs, usually for a little less than a full-time government employee would get. There's different pension systems involved. There's different health and benefits, all right? But they only work so as long as the contractor has the contract. Those guys won't get paid, all right? They won't get paid. There's no work. There's no contracting work. Now, they could put a resolution in saying these guys still get paid. The contractors still get paid, which would be great, but there's still a bulk of the voting thing out there. So here's the other thing. This is the main thing. These are the people that should be, these are the lobbyists, these are the people with control in the DC area. You know, you go out to the hinterlands and everything, but all these senators and congressmen are in DC right now. All the lobbyists are there. Lobbyists are connected with the contractors who are making the big money, but they don't make the big money so long as these people aren't working. They're not making the money. But when you threaten to eliminate these positions altogether, and the contractor's losing those contracts, he's the guy that's going to be hurt the most. Because all he does is he's like a slave trader. You know, I need 20 slaves to work at the Pentagon, right? So he says, okay, it's going to cost you $50 an hour for each slave, right? So that's $1,000, right? $1,000 an hour. But I'm only paying the slaves in total with all the Social Security, everything else. I'm only paying these slaves $40 an hour total. I'm making $10 an hour per slave. That's $200 an hour that I made doing nothing except providing these people to the federal government. All right? Slaves might be a bad term. Wage slaves, you know, workers. It's like a contract, security contractors, right? For every security guard they hire out, they're making money. If they're not hiring out any security guards, how much money are they making? Nothing.
Zero.
They're losing money because they also have insurance they need to pay. They have to pay for their licensing. They have to pay for their building, their secretaries, everything else, right? So they're losing money. So these contracting companies, Ernst & Young, there's all sorts of other, you know, consultants and contractors out there that are bringing these people in. They're the ones that are going to be calling these congressmen and saying, hey, I just lost $50,000 out of my pocket this week because of your shutdown. Now, how much did I donate to you? Here's the guy that's going to say, guess what, buddy? You could pay me the $50,000 I lost through some kickback scheme or whatever, or guess who's not getting the $50,000 next year because you're useless.
You're,
and then he's like,
the fundraising spigot is off, baby.
So it's these big guys there. So now when our current president, right, says that I have the authority, and he is checked in with his office of
Management and Budget, Office of Personnel.
Yeah, Office of Management and Budget. It says, can I do this? Is it legal? And of course, they have lawyers that are going to look into all legalities and say, absolutely, you can do it. So not only is going to put a lot of, he's going to save money by cutting out jobs that are redundant, jobs that are just there to make, you know, if I have to hire 100 contractors, then my buddy's making $2,000. I only need 10 contractors, but that only makes him $200, but I want to make $2,000, right? So they have jobs that are redundant, overstaffed, just so they could pay out this money to contractors. It's a cottage industry. So these are the guys that will go to these guys and turn them as soon as they've lost enough money. And when they look at how much money they're going to lose when these positions are eliminated, and then what's also going to happen is they only have to pay a federal employee, right, back pay so long as he's employed. So if they fire him tomorrow, they're only going to owe him the back pay for the days of the shutdown before he was fired. So if they eliminate all these jobs, saying obviously they're not necessary, we don't need them, nothing's changed, get rid of them, and you put all these people out of work, one, you're saving a massive amount on the budget, right? Two, you're putting people out, putting people that need to get back into the private sector now for some way. And three, a lot of these people are going to see that the people, it wasn't, sure, the executive officer was the one that sent them the pink slip, but he sent them the pink slip because their people forced this hand. So, yeah, no, it's like they tell you in PSYOPs, you're not PSYOPing the people per se. You're PSYOPing the people. You're PSYOPing the people that influence the person making the decision. So if the public, like you said, writes enough letters to these guys that Santa Claus exists, then you're PSYOPing the public, right? But you really want to go after the guys who are making the most money on this and say, dude, your gravy train is gone if this doesn't end. And they're the ones with the influence that are going to talk to the senators or talk to, the head of the 40, well, not even 40, they're like 48%. And he's going to say, hey, I don't care who's going to take the hit. You're going to cough up 10 bodies to vote for this bill. Make them the bad guys of your party, but they're going to vote for the bill. And then you could still hold your part high. Oh, it wasn't all of us. It was just a few turncoats, And you kind of throw them to the wolves, but you tell them, don't worry, next time we're going to. Or you look at the guys that are definitely look like they're going to lose their they're going to lose their reelection campaign. Or they're close and you don't want to spend money on them. Or you have someone in the wings waiting to come in. Those are the guys that you strong arm to vote for your bill and tell them, oh, we got a cushy lobbyist job for you afterwards. So I'm, the longer it goes, the more money's going to be saved off the contractors. The more likely, more redundant jobs are going to be fired. Unnecessary government bloat will be reduced. And hopefully we'll get back to a sustainable budget. As far as people think, when we come back on this, we'll be talking about how this affects the military, because I've been through a couple of them where it really hasn't affected me too much. All right. But that'll be when we come back.
Thank you.
Want to read some action-packed, exciting pulp fiction? Read the works of Michael Tooman, now featuring their international crime thriller, I Married a Bot Madam. Available on Amazon in hardcover, paperback, and Kindle editions. The paperback is also available at other book retailers. Check out Michael Tooman's webpage at Scilink.net. That's Papa, Sierra, Yankee, Lima, India, November, Kilo, November Echo Tango. Join your co-hosts Mike Tooman and Paul Burvid on our weekly radio hour, Chief Guard of the Republic, where we talk about all things national security, defense, personal security, safety, and dealing with law enforcement situations. Call in 847-931-1410. Ask us questions. We will get you answers. Every week, Saturday, noon to 1 on 1410 AM WRMN Elgin. Streaming on WRMN1410.com. Chat with us on WRMN's YouTube Live channel.
Your hometown radio station since 1949. We are WRMN AM 1410 Elgin time, 1 o'clock.
News at Town Hall. I'm Bob Agnew in Washington. Democrats getting mixed reviews over their effort to shut down the government over a demand to extend Obamacare subsidies. Correspondent Ed Donahue takes a closer look.
A new poll asked about health insurance tax credits that are scheduled to expire at the end of the year. The extension issue is the reason for the government shutdown. A poll from healthcare research nonprofit KFF conducted before the shutdown found most Americans want Congress to approve the extension. At the same time, the survey showed only about 4 in 10 adults had read a lot or some about the subsidies as the shutdown began, leaving room for public opinion to shift in either direction. Meantime, a New York Times Siena poll conducted roughly at the same period as the KFF poll found most voters did not want Democrats to shut down the government, even if their demands were not met. I'm Ed Donahue.
RNC Chairman Joe Gruters says what he sees as a leftward direction in the Democrat Party may serve Republicans well in next year's midterm elections.
You got to look at the midterms coming up and the fact that the incumbent party's 2-39 in these off-cycle elections, so the headwinds are against us. But I think we have a real opportunity to continue to build with the base and build with our, hold the majorities of both the House and the Senate based on things like what the Democrats are doing right now with the shutdown.
One of the casualties of the government shutdown so far is the monthly jobs report.
The Labor Department typically releases its monthly job numbers on the first Friday of the month, but that report on economic data is being delayed amidst the ongoing shutdown.
One of our so-called elected officials that already have like $29 million, they've been in office for 4 or 6 years, and they got $29 million. I can understand if you're marketing yourself, and stuff like that. But then that money goes into investments and everything, and they're profiteering off policy. That's like insider trading. And, but they got the cutouts and they got the thing. And the only reason they stay in office is because as long as they're in office, they'll scream, oh, it's a political hack job. They're coming after me because they don't like me because I'm in office, because I'm voting for the people and I'm all about the people and everything else.
I'm standing up for you. I'm at the front line of the protest, and you see me handing out masks. Yeah, it's all BS.
And so as soon as they get out of office, all of a sudden there's the federal, what do you call it, the investment corporation, whatever. Those guys are knocking on their door saying, hey,
Securities and Exchange Commission.
Security and Exchange Commission is saying, hey, Senator, hey, Congresswoman, we'd like to know about this, how you were in this, supposedly on this committee that had directly relation to that, and then before you released that to be voted on, or before you voted it down and it wouldn't hit the floor, you profiteered off of it.
Yeah,
so
you were a silent partner of XYZ Corporation in a joint venture to build Himalayan milkshake stands at the elephant zoo in Rabat, India, or something like that. Yeah, exactly. You're exactly right.
And the day you're out and you're 80 years old, and here's the thing, you got to have the intestinal fortitude for this and go, hey, Harvey Weinstein, we don't care if you're in a walker. We don't care how old you are. We don't care how sick you are. Enjoy federal prison or enjoy prison. They're never going to leave office without, shotgun or something at their back. Something's happening, right? That's making them leave the office, because if they see that coming, they're just going to stay where they're most protected. I mean, you really have
That's why they never leave.
Yeah.
They never leave. Because
they've done so much.
And it's more than doing good or doing justice. It's doing themselves. It's them protecting them.
Yes. they say all actions are self-serving, right? Now, there's a lot of people that take it serious out there. There are some decent people, not so much self-serving. They take an oath, right? And they do the job, but they can't. It's a, oh my gosh. If only, well, let's hope that these top-notch guys with these contracting companies, the movers and the shakers with these companies that are starting to going to lose money, that are going to lose. When you lose money, you lose power. When you lose power, you lose control. That they could either make the change, or that they're too dumb and they have too much hubris, because you know how long they've been making money like this, Paul?
A good half century, I bet, in a lot of cases.
Since before Vietnam. And,
yeah.
Look, okay, one company, Brown and Root. You ever hear of them?
I have.
So they came around in Vietnam and they started doing a lot of contracting, the mess halls, tent construction, base construction, all this stuff. They were the big investors in them were Cheney and Rumsfeld. Those guys had big investments with them, right? And supposedly they're conservative. But they got their fingers in every little military action that we had, and they were profiteering off it. They were making huge amounts of money. So bad that they became almost they were the de facto monopoly.
Industrial complex unto themselves.
Yeah, they were de facto monopoly, right?
Yeah.
So to hide this, they changed their name from Brown and Root to KBR. Oh, like no one noticed. Kellogg, Brown and Root. Then they changed it again to Fluor. All the same company, right? All profiteering off the military. Like, unbelievable. These are the guys that are going to be losing the money. These are the guys that, Cheney owned, Rumsfeld was in there, right? The other guys, other people that knew what was happening in the Department of Defense, in national defense and everything, would know when to invest, when not to invest, when the big money was coming in, when it wasn't, who to hire, who to subcontract to. All the money coming in and everything. So for a shutdown to be able to cut this out and to hurt those guys, to hurt the guys at the top financially, to make them feel the pain. And really, here's another thing, Paul. If you have $100 million and suddenly you're fined $1 million, how does that hurt you?
If I'm what?
If you're worth $100 million,
yes,
that you could liquefy, not all in, investment, but $100 million of liquid assets.
Yeah.
And the federal government comes and says, you did bad here. We're fining you $1 million. How does that affect you?
Not very much.
I got $99 million. If you're down to your last $100 and you still got a week and a half before payday, and you got to pay $1 fine for something, how does that affect you?
Could be bad.
Could be bad. I might not be able to eat for a day.
Right.
I may not be able to pay for something else. I may not be able to pay a phone bill. There's levels of this, right?
Right.
There's levels. I want to shut down, not to hurt that guy, right? Like I talked about, the guy that had to move and everything.
Right.
I want it to really hurt the guys on top. The guys really making money out of this. I want them to feel the pain bad. And I want them to take it out on the politicians that they own or they think they own.
Right.
And I want the politicians via that to feel the pain. Because when they rerun for office and they can't put on those television commercials and they can't have all those parties and they can't have that, and it's either you're the flavor of the day or you're not. If you're a flavor of the day, you could sell $1,000 benefit tickets, right, for your campaign. If you're not the flavor of the day, you're lucky to get donations of $1 in a boot, right? Walking around with a boot trying to collect the money for your campaign. And so you could be the flavor of the day and the next day not be the flavor of the day with these guys for whatever reason. They could turn on you in a heartbeat. And when they turn on you, everyone else turns on you. And now you're being primaried out. They don't even want to you might be a loyal party member, but because all this happened, you're getting primaried out by someone else, just as a vindictive thing. Because this guy lost the $10 million of his $100 million, or the $1 million of his $100 million because of you, right? He's going to make sure that you get primaried out of vindictiveness.
It's a matter of principle at that stage.
I just I know it's a pipe dream. Like you said, the kabuki theater of it all. Kabuki theater. It's the whole world. Who said the whole world's a stage? Was that Shakespeare?
I think so.
A lot of quotes are attributed to Shakespeare that aren't. I wanted to have a happy ending for the American people. The American people. I wanted to have a sad ending for the self-proclaimed elite. You agree?
I do.
See, the country was founded that everyone is the same. There are no nobility. There's no nobility here. They did have reading and writing test in order to vote for a while.
Yeah.
So they just wanted to make sure that you weren't, that you weren't a complete fool. Right? They don't want fools running our government. That's all changed and everything. But the country was founded that everyone was pretty much equal so long as you owned land and could read and write. Because then if you owned land, you had skin in the game, right? And if you could read and write, you were educated enough to make decisions. Or you tried to educate yourself. Or, you had some of that. But there was no, I'm better than you because I'm the Baron of Yorkshire, or I'm the Grand Lady Duchess of Yorkshire pudding or whatever, right? These people are born in, they inherit titles, right? They've been the nobility forever. They've been connected families. And a lot of guys that worked real hard, that were smart and everything, can never get into this. And they understood that coming to the new world and having the whole thing breaking open for them. You didn't see Prince Charles or anything coming in and breaking ground on a farm, and then having half his family starve off and everything until he made it big. And then he made it bigger, right? Started trading and doing everything. He made it big, but he had a title, so that could go. But these guys come over here, they work hard. They're not even British citizens, right? They're Dutch, they're German, they're French, but they have no titles. And they were sick of that because the titles were the ones making the laws to protect themselves. The House of Lords, the House of Commons, and then the House of Lords, but we have the House of Representatives and, the Senate, right?
They call that bicameral legislation. There's two different houses, and then and there's the House of Lords were peerage, and the House of Commons were the elected ones from the localities.
So they over the years, politics have become, for some families, a cottage industry.
Or it's devolved into a a monarchy of its own. Politics has
fiefdom
resulted in like monarchies or dynasties or however you want to call it. Instead of the person, like your Daniel Boone or your Bowie taking their shot at the thing and go and serving one term and representing the folks from Hobnob Goblin. We got people that are 12 or 20 12 or 20 terms, 40 years in Congress. You know what I'm saying?
Nancy Pelosi.
Yeah, give me a break. You know what I'm saying? But give me a break. Let somebody else new get in there. And the other question is, in 20 terms, how many pieces of legislation did they sponsor? One. Okay. Yeah. All right. They should, the guy I'm putting in should be sponsoring something every time, not once every 32 months when the moon is pink and the sun is yellow. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, the bills, they get these, they're not writing them, right? They got their staff and their staff.
Well, the lobbyist proposes it and then they look it over and sanitize it.
So, okay. So the Army is so lazy, never bet against lazy in the Army, right? Is when I needed a non-commissioned officer evaluation report, getting my first line supervisor to do it was like near impossible. So you write it up yourself, you basically have it all written up there and you say, here, sign this. As long as it's not like unbelievably like walks on water, raises the dead, makes the blind see, promote with peers, as he has no peers, do not promote. Anyways, as long as it's not that like that, they would just sign off on it. You could do it. Well, the lobbyists are the same way. They're writing, like you said, they're writing it up, literally handing it written up to them, say, this is what we want in there. And then maybe someone in their staff goes through and says, this is a little nuts here. Maybe we'll change this. Or, oh, that's a great idea. Let's add on it to some more, And then they pass it around to their peers, right, who not sponsoring it anymore. But they look at it and says, well, I need some pork here for Illinois. And someone goes, I need some for Indiana. I need some for New York. And they're all scratching their stuff into it. And then you get what was supposed to be, we need all the street lights replaced yearly to prevent them from going out and causing danger to people, which was submitted by the Western Electric Company, right? You take them and they take their lobbyists, they go to the congressman and they say, hey, we think that the nation should replace all street lamps once a year at least, because they're making them, they're going to make a profit off of them. And then by the end, you got a 42-page, 42,000-page document that's loaded with nothing pork, but say bright lights for all. The name of the bill, right? Yeah, it should be like they should be entering a bill. This is it. This is it. All right. I want new light bulbs every year, period. That's it. Submit it. So have the people vote on it. It gets voted down, it gets voted down, it gets passed, right? And if you get caught.
By the time you get through that, they have to be changed by a contractor that has 14 people with at least one with 3 arms and 17 feet. And then it's ridiculous. And then it has to be a minority contractor, but a minority of Ilawaki
Eskimos,
Komodo dragon trainers,
Inuits, yeah,
it's ridiculous,
Yes, and there's like rules and everything. The people, if they were aware of this, of what they're voting for, and everything being added in, and that it's not benefiting them. They say it's benefiting them, but it's not. It's benefiting the guys up that are contracting. The 10 seconds. 10 minutes or 10 seconds?
Oh, no, 4 seconds.
4 seconds. All right. See you next week at Chief Guard of the Republic radio show. Bye, Paul.
Bye. Take care. Have a great week. Yep.
Citizens Council and Kane Senior Council have been dedicated to serving seniors in DuPage and Kane counties.